What's going on, y'all? Usually I try to go live every Wednesday. My name is Dr. J. Desiree Rodriguez. Just call me Desiree. So last week I didn't have the opportunity. I didn't have the opportunity to come on live. Last week was super busy. I had so much going on with my festival. My festival is called Literature Matters. If you don't know, I have a nonprofit. We host events and community outreach for diverse authors and literacy to inspire children to read. So last week I was super busy, and I didn't have the opportunity to come on live and just talk to you guys about me, who I am, and just anything interesting or all things interesting about me. So I did want to come on live today to talk about what inspired me to start Literature Matters. Where did that idea come from? Why being an entrepreneur. So I have about 10 years of teaching and education experience. I kind of climbed the ladder, to be honest. I started out as a substitute, and I was working for a low-income community, which they call Title I out here in Texas, which means the community, the kiddos, maybe they come from an environment that's where they don't get a lot of funding or a lot of money, or just a lot of setbacks. And so I started out at a middle school called Sol Ross right here in San Antonio, and I was subbing there, and I was starting to interact with the kids. And so one day an assistant principal came up to me and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in a full-time position?" And I was like, no, no, I'm not coming in full time. That's crazy. I'm just subbing. And he was just like, no, I really see that connection that you have with students and that mentorship. And so I put in an application and I started to teach full time as a special education's instructional assistant, which means that that person helps support the main teacher in the classroom and helps to, whether make copies, help children in small groups. So that might be children that need extra help with math, with reading. And so I did that for about a year. And I don't think, you always hear people talk about how much teachers get paid, and they don't get paid a lot. When I tell you I made no money as an instructional assistant, I think I made like $900, $1,000 a month, which was crazy. Especially the amount of time, you're there full time, but I was only making about $1,000 after taxes a month to support, what I had going on, like my apartment and groceries. I only got $1,000. So I had to find other part-time gigs. So I started out as that, and I told my parents, okay, I'll go ahead and get my license. And so I got my bachelor's of science in mass communications, broadcasting. And so when it came to getting my license, I had to get an alternative license in the state of Texas. So I had to go through a series of training, and it was an online program. So I did that. I passed my tests. And from there, I started hitting the ground running, trying to find a full-time position. And unfortunately, the middle school that I was working at, they didn't bring me on as a full-time teacher, which I was devastated because I had started kind of my groundwork there. I had started my nonprofit, Always a Lady First. I knew a lot of the kiddos in the area and those who went off into high school. I kind of wanted to be that teacher that watched them grow, but for some reason, the principals, they said they didn't have a position for me, even though I did hear about someone who got the position. But that's a whole nother conversation. And so what I did was I had to print out my alternative license and my resume, and I literally started hustling. Like, I got in my car and I printed copies of my resume and started going off to different schools and dropping off my resume. And so this one principal, he said, "Hey, we don't have anything available, but I'll keep your name on record." And I just feel like many jobs say that. They say they're going to keep, your resume and things on record, and then you don't hear from nobody, So I wasn't really expecting anything. And so he sent my information to another high school And he said, hey, I got this, this young teacher, she's looking for a full-time position. And so I got into a high school position where I was a special education certified alternative teacher, or I had an alternative certification, and I taught at a high school. And from there, I continued always a lady first. But in this case, I was helping high school students. And, everyone always says, oh, I couldn't teach middle school, or, oh, I couldn't teach high school. And really, there's pros and cons to both. And, in middle school, they're young and the kiddos are impressionable, and you can kind of mold them and help shape them and shape their thinking into positive light and just see what they like. And then high school, they can drive. That's a really big deal when you do community outreach. You want your kids to just show up, and when they can drive, you don't have to worry about more logistics. So I did that for some time, and then, long story short, my husband and I, we ended up in Tampa. We had our baby, and we didn't have any family out here at the moment. So I said, okay, Mom and Dad, here we come. We're coming to Tampa. I taught at a charter school for a couple years there. I worked for the public system there. And then I started to teach higher education. My master's, my bachelor's, and my doctorate is all communication. And so even with that position, like, you'll put in an application for a job to teach higher ed, and then it'll just sit there. So I did another step. I researched who was the department over communication, and I reached out to that person and said, hey, I'm looking for, a higher education position. And so they said, okay, great. And it was really easy. I kind of came on. So that's just kind of a quick synopsis of me and education. I didn't go to school to be a teacher. Like that was not my plan. I just ended up in Texas, and there was nothing available. I applied for so many different jobs. I applied for news, broadcast, got rejected again. And I did, however, work for Black Video News. And so while I was a structural assistant and teacher, I was working for Black Video News, which is like an online broadcasting network. And so my passion for Literature Matters came from me being an author for over 10 years. I became a self-published author at 17. And seeing the gap in kids, the disconnect with literacy, seeing how they just don't connect with reading whatsoever. And which is completely understandable. I didn't read anything in my culture till college. And I'm Afro-Latina. I didn't read anything about being Dominican. I didn't read anything really about being Black. I mean, other than maybe Martin Luther King Day or where they would have little paragraphs about what happened or little paragraphs about Civil War, but I really didn't read anything about my culture. And so shout out to Norfolk State. But going to Norfolk State was one of the best things that ever happened to me, and it helped me connect with who I am as a person, about my Blackness, about loving myself, about my culture. And so having that background in education and seeing the gap in kids inspired me to start Literature Matters. And connecting with me just being an author for over a decade, it really connected and aligned how I wanted to impact. So last week, I didn't get a chance to come on here and talk about what I've been doing. I was just so busy last week, but I figured, I can come on today and I can kind of catch y'all up. And for those of you who don't know me, and talk to you a little bit about who I am and some of the things that I have going on. So if you'd like to support my nonprofit, go to www.jadesarray.com/LM for Literature Matters. And then on all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, it's at JadesArrayLM. So thank you guys for tuning in to my quick live. I try to go live once a week. And like I said, I didn't get a chance to last week, but I try to come on every week and just talk to you about who I am, what I got going on. And I just think going live is so much easier. I appreciate it more because it's uncut. I'm not cutting anything. This is real live in real time. And so I just appreciate for those of you who joined me for a little bit. So I'm going to save this video. So if you'd like to go back and kind of, take a look at all the things that I talked about today and, slide me a message or a comment, and talk to you next week.